Welcome to South Shore Diversity Spotlight. This is where we'll visit people, places, and things of interest, each having its own story that adds to the rich diversity that's right under our noses, right here, south of Boston. We're going to be visiting with Jennifer Coyle of Norwell and her partner, Wanjiku Mwangi, both who are with an organization called Growth Through Learning. It's all about empowering young women. Let's listen to what they have to share. Hello, Jennifer. Hello, Wanjiku. How are you today?
I'm well.
Jennifer,
How are you today?
All right? Do you have a...
We're great. Thank you very much. And thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for your time. So let's just begin this conversation, which really is focused around diversity and diversity on the South Shore. And Jennifer, let's start with you first. Tell us about yourself, where you reside, and how you got involved in working with Wanjiku.
Hi, good morning. So my name is Jennifer Logan Coyle, and I have lived in Norwell on the South Shore since my older twins were born. So about 13 and a half years, we've been happy to live here in Norwell. And prior to our residence in Norwell, I have a public health background. So I have a master's in public health from the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. And I was really brought into public health after my career in psychology. Prior to that time, I had a bachelor's degree from Boston College in Chestnut Hill in psychology. And then I worked as a Peace Corps volunteer in the Dominican Republic. And that experience really expanded my view on how to best address social justice issues from more of an individual level mental health intervention to more thinking about policy level changes. So that really brought me into the public health sphere. I worked in international public health, and my main focus within public health is really about addressing social justice issues on a policy level, particularly through thinking about prevention efforts through health education, research, training, and technical assistance. So when I moved to Norwell, I was interested in trying to have a bridge between my prior experience and thinking about how to make some local changes and have that bridge between the local and international sphere. I was approached by one of my dear friends and colleagues, Donna Lazorek, who had worked with me coincidentally on pandemic planning activities in Massachusetts and on the federal level as well. And she had been talking about her wonderful experience with Growth Through Learning for maybe 15 years prior to that time. And I felt like right now, given what was going on in the United States, I felt like this was the time for me to really get involved with Growth Through Learning to try to make some positive, continue to make some positive changes and link that experience internationally back again. So I joined the board of directors in July of this previous year. And I had been in communication with Growth Through Learning prior to that time. And it's just been a wonderful experience working with them.
Now, Jennifer, you also are part of a group, a committee, if you will, in Norwell. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Oh, thank you. So yes, so my sign is behind me, the All Are Welcome Committee. It's a town-appointed town committee in Norwell. Norwell is considered a no place for hate community. And the All Are Welcome Committee was previously called the Norwell No Place for Hate Committee. And we kind of expanded that role to try to tell the public what we're focusing on, trying to achieve the positive community spirit where everyone feels welcome and valued, and a focus really on inclusion. So going beyond diversity to inclusion, where everyone not only feels that they have a place at the table, but they're invited and encouraged to share their background. So we're trying to do some education on social justice and anything related to cross-cultural issues.
Thank you. So now let's talk about Growth Through Learning. And Wanjiku Mwangi, am I pronouncing your name correctly, Wanjiku?
Yes, you are.
Right. Let's talk about how you two came to working together.
I am the executive director of Growth Through Learning and have been in this position for 6 years. So when Jennifer joined last year, she joined a board of directors that I work with at Growth Through Learning.
And let's talk about the mission and the goal of Growth Through Learning and the countries that you're operating in.
We operate in 3 countries in East Africa. That's Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And our mission is just to educate girls in these 3 countries. Girls who are bright, academically strong, but their families do not have enough money to pay for them to go through high school. So that's the kind of girls that we really focus on and award scholarships to. We award scholarships to about 300 girls a year. So, and since 1997, we have had about 1,600 graduates from Growth Through Learning.
And the focus for the education of these girls, when they complete their formal education, if you will, where do they go? Do they go on to higher education? Do they go into particular careers and fields?
Most of the girls that we award scholarship to actually finish high school and go on to higher education. They go to local 2-year colleges or universities, and they have careers as diverse as teachers, nurses. Some of them are actually doctors. And we have one who graduated from Harvard in 2016, and she's back in Kenya. So all wide-ranging careers these girls go to after graduating from high school and then on from higher education.
I understand that you want to tell us about one of the girls in particular. I believe she may have a very interesting story that you'd like to share.
Yes, there's this one girl. There are many of them who are successful, but this particular one, she's from an ethnic group called the Maasai in Tanzania. And the Maasai are both in Kenya and Tanzania. And they are a pastoral community. So they have very strong tradition of values. And one of the things they do or used to do is not to educate their girls. So when you were a Maasai girl and you turn 14 years of age, there's that expectation that you're going to get married, and then your father or your relatives are going to get dowry or some exchange, cows into your family, which then help your brother when he wants to get married to give the girl's family those cows. So this girl turned 14 and she had finished her elementary school. And her father was like, no, now it's time for you to start thinking of getting married. And I'm thinking of this family. They have this young man. So she told me that she told her father, no, I'd like actually to go to school, high school. But he was like, no, you're not supposed to go to high school. You're supposed to get married. So that, in future, your brother can also get married and is using that those cows that are given to this family that helps him to get married. But she found a way to go through, I think she got in touch with Growth Through Learning, and she was offered a scholarship. And she had to come back home and convince the father that there was somebody who was willing to pay for her high school education. So it took a bit of time, but I think she wore her father down and she was like, okay, you want to go to school, you go to school. So she managed to go through high school. She finished. She got into the local university to train as a teacher. And right now she teaches in one of the schools in Tanzania. And, she educates her younger siblings, her nieces and nephews, and she's become really a role model in the community. She has built a house for her father. She has also opened businesses for her brothers, who were the ones who are saying she should get married so that they can get the money to the cows to get married off themselves. So it's a really good story about how education really impacts women and girls in those communities.
That's a fantastic story that you just shared.
Yeah.
It definitely drives home the point that with education, there's empowerment. With empowerment, there's economic opportunity and growth that can benefit the entire family in a longer term sense than just the immediacy of trading your daughter for cows, which might only get you so far, so to speak.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, how does one here in the South Shore help and support your efforts with Growth Through Learning? How do you go about getting support?
So what we do, we have a website. So we put a lot of our emotion on the website. We also use our board members who then go into the communities where they live in. Of course, Jennifer being one of our new board members and telling the community where she lives about us. That's how they get to hear of growth through learning and then make donations to us.
Jennifer, is there anything else you want to add?
I just want to say one of the main attractive features that I found about growth through learning, and one major reason why I joined the board and became a supporter, is because of their really unique program model. There are other organizations that do scholarship activities, but growth through learning really uses a very respectful, grassroots, community-driven approach. They work with a network of volunteer coordinators in the community that help to identify the schools, to ensure that the schools are a safe environment for girls. And that's a really major factor. And I think that there's been lots of publicity around safety issues for young women in East Africa and other areas of the globe. So these coordinators make sure the school committee is a very supportive environment for the girls, that they have their needs met, and then they help with the selection and identification of appropriate girls. So they then are a partner and mentor to the young women throughout their through their secondary school education. So we're seeing both benefits for the young women themselves, the coordinators through their activities and the small stipend they receive in order to be involved, and then the broader community as a whole for the young women. And there's been some interesting impact data from our evaluator that is on our board, who volunteers her time. And it really shows that the young women are bringing the message about the importance of girls' education back to their community, and are looked on as experts really in their community, and really positive peer models of what can happen when a young woman is given the chance to go to school. Mm-hmm. And I really like Growth Through Learning's tag, if you give a girl a chance, she'll do the rest. So it's not that these young women are deficient in some way, they're the top of their class in many cases. And really it's just a financial barrier to going to school. And Growth Through Learning provides the opportunity for them to go to really top flight high schools all throughout East Africa, where they're able to really focus right on their schoolwork rather than having to do their chores and other activities during their schooling. It's a boarding school environment, which really allows them to have much higher academic performance. Growth Through Learning has a curriculum for kids, and we're trying to get this out electronically. We have the hard copies, but particularly during this time of social isolation, we want to get the information up so that teachers can be incorporating this into their lesson plans. In both 4th grade and 7th grade, there's an incorporation of world geography as part of the Common Core, and Africa is covered in both of those lesson plans. So I feel like this would be some really interesting supplemental information for students and teachers to reflect on, and really think about the value of education in their own lives and their ability to make differences in other peer students that are separated by distance but have a lot in common.
Wanjiku, let's talk about the origins of Growth Through Learning. When did this organization first get started?
It started in 1997. And what happened is that there's a gentleman by the name Roger Whiting, who's passed on now. He went to a safari in Tanzania, and he went with his partner, who's still a member of our board, Ginny. And I think one of the days when they were having dinner at a restaurant, there was a young girl who was a waiter or a server. And they got talking, and Roger asked her, why are you doing this work now? You should be in school. And this girl told him that she had brothers who were in school, but her parents could not afford to send her to school. And that was in 1997. So he was very touched by the story of this girl. And when he came back home, I think he was originally from Holden, he started sending money back to her, to go to school. And a year later, in 1998, he formed Growth Through Learning as a nonprofit to help more girls and fundraising in America for more kids to go to school. So then it became more formalized from Tanzania, then it went into Kenya, and then it went into Uganda. Yeah, so that is almost 23 or 25 years ago now.
And let's talk about the graduation rates. Tell us more about those 1,600 students or so that cycle through your program.
We have over 95% graduation rate. And I say this knowing that most graduation is about what, 70%, 75%, and I think Boston is actually 75%. But you look at all our girls, they are graduating at over 95%, because this for them is an opportunity of a lifetime. And once they go to school, they know that this is the only chance for most of them, to better their lives, their communities, and they take this chance and are very serious about their studies.
Anything else you want to share about growth through learning?
That we have there's so much needs. Sometimes there's so many applications that come through that it's so rigorous to get into our program. So we continue fundraising and educating as many girls as we can. And we are still looking for donations and help to educate as many as we can. But we are doing the best we can right now.
So Wanjiku, tell me about your personal story.
I'm originally from Kenya, and I've been in the Boston area for the last 10 years and work around social justice education issues. But what got me interested in work around social justice is the story of my mother. She was one of 7 children, and she was the first child, and she had 5 brothers. So it was her, and then her sister, and then 5 brothers behind her. And all her brothers were sent to school by her parents, my grandparents. So what happened is that my mother and her sister were told, being girls, you don't have to go to school. You just have to grow up a little bit and get married. And that meant that my mother, as she grew up, as her brothers went to school, she did all her work she was supposed to do as a girl, cooking, fetching water, washing. And then the boys went to school. That meant that their work, looking after the cattle, the goats, everything, had to now be done by my mother and her sister. So the brothers finished and they became teachers, they went into professional, jobs. And my mother, she got married and got 11 of us. I'm actually the 9th of 11 children. And I remember as I was growing up, her saying how education is important. And she wasn't educated, but she kept on saying that she missed that chance. And if she had been educated, she would be a pilot. That's the thing she kept on telling me and telling us, that would have been her dream. And I remember always teasing her that it's not because she just wanted to be a pilot, because it's a good job and glamorous, because it also represented freedom for her to be up in the air and do the things she wanted with her life. So that story of my mother and what she felt she missed because of not getting education really inspired me. And I grew up knowing that I would really work in the area where bringing education equality to girls in my country was something I wanted to do. And I've done that for the last 20 years or so.
How are the girls doing in Africa with respect to this global pandemic, COVID-19?
Right now, all the 14 schools that we are in our program are closed. Everybody was sent back home. But what was so interesting is just when they were told they had to go home, some of the girls wanted to stay in school. They were telling us that it's easier to be in school where there is food, 3 meals a day. It's secure, there is electricity, there is running water, rather than going back to the village, because it's going to be a very difficult time for them. But we couldn't keep them. And it was the law that all the students had to go home. So they are right now at home, and we are hopeful that maybe in the next 3 or 4 weeks, schools will reopen and they can all come back to school, because they really want to continue with school and they don't want to waste any chance at not graduating. But we are ready to support them. Whatever happens, even if they miss more school or a year, we are ready to support them to finish.
Give us the name of your school's website.
It's www.growthroughlearning.org. That is the website of Growth Through Learning. We have all the information about our schools, our program, and the girls we sponsor.
Wanjiku and Jennifer, I want to thank you both so much for taking the time with us today to give us a really great overview on Growth Through Learning. Again, that's growthroughlearning.org. Is that correct?
Yes.
And hopefully we can revisit with you again once we get this pandemic behind us. I want to find out how the girls are doing in terms of returning back to school, how they're progressing. All right. So promise me we'll have an opportunity to revisit with you again.
We will do. And thank you very much for your time today.
All right. Thank you both. Have a great day and stay healthy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.